In this video, I will demonstrate how to create a custom line chart with dynamic reference line using SAS Graph Builder. Let's talk a little bit about SAS Graph Builder. This is available with SAS Visual Analytics either on SAS Viya or SAS 9.4. SAS Graph Builder allows you to create custom graph templates that can be used in SAS Visual Analytics reports. You can layer graphs, customize graph options such as color and style, you can define shared roles, and you can design user-defined or data-driven lattice graph templates. Once you've finished designing your custom graph template, you can save it in a shared location for others to use. You can even export and import these graph templates between environments for sharing or for your standard environment promotion procedures. SAS Graph Builder offers a gallery of available templates to start from, or you can create your own from scratch. Let's get started with the demonstration. I will be using SAS Visual Analytics 8.5 for the hands-on portion of this video, but the same techniques can be used in earlier releases, including SAS 9.4. Let's start by taking a look at the line chart I want to build. On the first page of this report, Super Bowl wins, I have graphed the winning score for each of the 53 Super Bowls played. Then I wanted to add a dynamic reference line looking at the average of these scores. This visual uses a custom graph template I created, and it is a straightforward example since I've only plotted one measure. Let's take a look at another example. Here on this second page, I'm looking at web traffic data and the number of visits for a site over the course of different years. This is a little more complex since I have a group role assigned for the year. Right now, I'm looking at just the average of all of these visits. You can see here that when I adjust the number of years displayed, the dynamic reference line adjusts. Let's go to edit mode and look at a few other types of reference lines you could add for this type of data. For this particular reference line, we're just looking at the average visits for all of the data being shown. We could create a target value instead of looking at the average for previous year plus 25%. I can go ahead and make that adjustments in the role assignments. The previous year is being dynamically calculated, and here I've just added 25% to that number. This is a little choppy, so what if we wanted to look at the average for the entire previous year, 2019, and just take a look at that average? That's located over here as an aggregated measure, so we can go ahead and make that change in our role assignment, which definitely flattens it out. Or we can go even to a more advanced reference line, looking at a 5-point bracketed moving average. This takes into account the 2 periods before and 2 periods after, smoothing out that line a little bit. Now you can see the power of the dynamic reference line and how the flexibility to calculate these targets can result in a meaningful visual. Let's go ahead and learn how we can create this custom graph template. I'm going to use the side application menu and open SAS Graph Builder using the option Build Custom Graphs. Here you can see we have the graph gallery over here on the right-hand side, and these are the pre-built templates that you can start from to make your customizations to. If, for example, you wanted to make customizations to the butterfly chart, you would open it up and go through the options and make your changes as you like. For this particular example, we're going to start by creating a new custom graph. The elements to choose from are over here on the left-hand side. And for this particular example, I will be layering 2 line charts on top of each other. I'm going to create a shared role for their x-axis and then customize the line style so the reference line is more noticeable. So first thing I'm going to do is drag and drop the line chart onto the canvas and then drag a second line chart right on top. Now first, let's customize the roles. Over on the right-hand side, I'm going to look at my role definitions. We can see I have 2 line charts added here, line chart 1 and line chart 2. And right now for the x-axis, they are using a defined shared role 1. I'm going to go ahead and rename that to make it a little bit easier. To do that, I'm going to go up here to my shared role definitions and use the overflow menu to edit the role. And then I'm going to make this just a little bit more clear-cut that this is the x-axis. And click OK. The next thing I need to do is to decide which line chart I'm going to have to hold the dynamic reference line. I'm going to choose line chart 1 for that, and I'm going to change the line chart 1 response so that it's more clear for the user that this is going to represent the dynamic reference line. Again, using the overflow menu to edit role, I'm going to rename this role to be dynamic reference line and click OK. Remember that in the more complex example for the line chart 2, I not only had a response but also a group role. So I'm going to need to add that group role here in order to satisfy that report requirement. So for line chart 2, I'm going to use add role. It's going to be a group type category, and I'm going to click OK. I'm also going to make sure that the response, if I don't have a group role, will allow for multiple measure assignment. So again, using the edit role from the overflow menu, I'm going to select allow multiple data assignments. Before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and save this graph template. This is where you want to select a location that is available for all users if you want those users to have the ability to import this template into their objects pane. For this particular purpose, I'm just going to save it in the My Folder location. I'm going to give it a meaningful name and click Save. If you do save your templates in a personal location that others can't access, and you add these templates to a report, other people will still be able to view the report without issue. They just won't be able to add that object directly in their object pane to build their own reports with. Okay, let's go ahead and customize our line. Remember, our line chart 1 is going to be holding our dynamic reference line response, and I want that to stand out a little bit. From the options pane, I'm going to flip over to my line chart 1. This drop-down menu is how you're going to navigate between the different elements that you can customize in your graph template. So I'm going to select line chart 1, and this is where I'm going to customize that reference line's appearance. I'm going to change the line style to be a hashed pattern. I'm going to make it a little thicker, and I'm going to change the default color. For line chart 2, I am going to leave the defaults. I'm totally fine with all the lines appearing as they normally would. The next edit I'm going to make is to the x-axis. I usually turn off the x-axis label since the category assigned to this role is usually self-explanatory. But for my tick values, I like to go ahead and impose an always rotate. Let's go ahead and save these changes. I'm going to close it, and we can see that my YouTube demo line chart with reference line is available here from my custom graphs. Now we need to switch over to SAS Visual Analytics to use it in a report. So from the side application menu, I'm going to select Explore and Visualize for SAS Visual Analytics. I'm going to go ahead and open a blank report that I've already added data to save us a little bit of time. So from this blank report, the first thing we need to do is add our new graph template to our list of available objects. We can see from the objects, that previous one, I have the original YouTube line chart with reference line, but the new one we created has the word demo here. So using the objects pane, using the overflow menu, we're going to import custom graph. Navigate to where you saved it. From my folder location, the YouTube-demo is what we just created. I'm going to click OK, and it shows up in the list of available objects. I'm going to go ahead and drag that onto the Super Bowl wins table or page, flip over to data, and then here we can see that I have my shared rolled x-axis that I renamed to make it a little bit easier. We can add our response, which is looking at the high scores, and the dynamic reference line looking at the average high score. If you didn't like this gold color for the high score line, you can go over to your options still and make the change. So here, instead of the gold color, if you wanted to pick a green color, you could select that here. The first one in the line marker color palette is blue. This one is actually being used by the high score average, and we can see, remember from the graph template, that I overwrote it to be black. So even if I were to change it, it would not appear any different since this is coming from the graph template. Let's go ahead and move to our web traffic page and add the new graph template here as well. So from the objects pane, we're going to go ahead and drag our new graph template. And from the role assignment, we're going to add week. Our reference line, will give it our 5-point bracketed moving average, looking at visits, and we're going to group by year. Now let's say we wanted to make a change to our template. Instead of having this be a bold black line, we want this actually to be a light gray. So let's go ahead and see how we can make that change. Let's go back to our custom graph builder, our SAS Graph Builder, and open up our template. We're going to go to our options, and that color option was for line chart 1. And instead of black, we want it to be gray. We're going to save. Let's go ahead and close this and move back to our report. Going to save this report and reopen it. And we can see that the line is still, the dynamic reference line style is still that black. So any changes you make to the graph template are not automatically going to be pushed out to those reports. If we want to see those changes being incorporated, we are going to have to delete this instance of the graph and just add a new instance of the object. So here, let's just make sure we have our Super Bowl wins. We're going to head and delete this object. So from our objects pane, we'll go ahead and drag the graph template back on. And since I made that change, you can see that the line is already showing the light gray. So let's go ahead and just verify that our change is being applied. And now that we can see going forward, that dynamic reference line is now styled in the light gray. So we can see the web traffic is still, let me adjust its filter for the years. We can still see that when this report was made, the black line in the template was being used, but going forward, any future uses of this particular graph template will have the style gray for the dynamic reference line. For more information, please refer to the SAS Visual Analytics and SAS Graph Builder documentation or one of these blogs. Thank you, and check back with the Technical Insights and Expertise series for additional tips.